Our story begins in a familiar setting, i.e. the gaming room, where Akira was dominating till he was hit with the painful "you have been disconnected" line. Back to reality, we get the sense that our boy doesn't have anything to care for or look to. From the way he is living, as not only his room, but also his whole house looks like a dumpster. That said, the high school student do be looking fresh AF, rocking his signature coat. Yet the girls in his class think he is a weirdo because Akira is always on his phone, and despite it, he is a straight A student. The lad enjoys playing games, and as someone who's always on electronics, I agree with his reasoning. Daily activities are quite boring. However, one day, while on the way to school, he is suddenly attacked by a mysterious man who looks like a character straight from a horror movie. Therefore, your boy does what they do in these kinds of movies and runs for the hills till he reaches an abandoned building, where he manages to set a couple of traps. Sadly, the monster proved to be too tough to be squashed under Akira's trap, but the mad lad was ready for him and put a spear to his heart, gladiator style. Although he won fair and square, Akira later is mercilessly killed by the magician-style woman Mion, who appears immediately afterward. Before going unconscious, the gamer declared that this wasn't a game over and vowed to win, with his last wish being, "I want to find a new game to help me escape this boring reality." When he wakes up, Akira is gathered in a mysterious facility along with other unfortunate souls. The poor bastards are told by Mion that they are now considered dead by the government, and as such their rights are no more. They will participate in a program as an experimental monitor of ability and will be involved in a harsh ability battle. A random thug walks up to shut her down, to which Mion uses him to set an example and show that she wasn't spitting some crazy nonsense. The cat girl then explains that the cuffs around their hands are used to suppress the abilities each character has been given, and once the red light turns to green, the cuffs go off and they are free to use their abilities as they please. She then asks if there is anyone who has questions. During this interaction, we get a hint of who the main characters are. From our boy to the blonde chick standing next to him, they have been thrown into this new world by the power of chance, and they will have to adapt to their new surroundings and new abilities to survive. Soon after the briefing ends, Akira heads to his room under the eyes of the cat girl, watching him and others from security cams. While Akira seems shocked and baffled about how he will be using his new ability, his next room neighbor has already started trying the power out, knocking Akira back on his feet and back to his grave reality that others might not hesitate to kill. As such, Akira decides in his own words, "I will play this game completely." The first phase is a one-on-one battle, and Akira gets to face Kurosaki, the delinquent. The latter asks our boy to surrender as soon as the battle starts to save time and lives, but Akira refuses as he wants to see things through by his own will. As soon as the count hits 0, the cuffs come off and Kurosaki turns the stick into a sword. Akira dodges the first couple of swings and uses his surroundings to not get caught. After the main man runs away to another room, he traps the delinquents with other tricks, waiting for the best moment to activate his ability, which the bad boy thinks is a pretty useless one, otherwise he wouldn't have run away. Akira begs the differ, stating it's a pretty dangerous one and that he saw it before, but Kiri boy doesn't believe and so charges head-on. Akira raises his hand and hints that his ability is the same as the cat girl's, i.e. the cannon. Once the thought enters the delinquent head, Akira's hand turns into a cannon and he puts his opponent down, forcing him to surrender. On the other end, Mion explains that Akira didn't use his ability right away since it isn't acutely a cannon, but a far more complex one called Deceive. To activate said ability, Akira must convince his opponent he has whatever ability he wants to use. Moving on, we meet the next main character, Yuri, an unhappy high school girl who hates the word accidental. It was pretty apparent after her interaction with a dogo. She dislikes that word as nothing tends to go her way. Also, to make matters worse, she was developing trust issues after that one time she helped a guy who was being ignored by everyone. To her luck, the guy turned out to be a mega simp, refusing to leave Yuri and following her around like a fly. Her home is the only place away from him, and yet she doesn't feel comfortable since her mother keeps bringing men over. Yup, you heard that right, that woman belongs to the streets. Sadly, the one who ended up there was Yuri. You see, one fateful day, the main girl spotted the freak she helped standing at the edge of a building ready to isekai himself. Being the good girl she is, Yuri rushes to talk him down. However, the bastard refuses to get off and then takes her hand and jumps to exist the way Romeo and Juliet did together. That said, as we can see, she is still alive and kicking the wall to be precise, trying to get out with her new ability to see a little girl she was taking care of. The girl was the daughter of the last man her mother brought, and Yuri was stuck to look after her. During the little one's stay, Yuri became close to her and developed a connection with her, especially after she saw the abuse the little girl's old man did, making big sis Yuri relate to how her mother treated her. Back to the present time, the Blondie's first program is a 1v1 duel. Yet unlike Akira's cool opponent, Yuri's opponent was a big middle-aged man who was given a power that allowed him to smell the feeling of a person. A fitting power to such creep. Confused by the unexpected behavior of her opponent, he took off his boxers. Yuri is forced to fight the ugly bastard while he is butt naked. Through a flashback, we saw how he became this monster and how unapologetic he became after lots of crimes against unfortunate ladies just like Yuri, calling it luck that his first opponent happens to be his kind of girl. Upon hearing the L word, Yuri snaps and overpowers the big bastard, breaks his arm, and knocks him to the Shadow Realm. She says, "Kiss my ass. I won't be defined by chance. I will take control of my destiny." She then vows to clear the game to return to the girl she lived with. Later, the second program is a 5v5 team competition, so here we are with Yuri, Kurosaki, Akira, and two other lads hanging in the same room. Peacefully mine, I say. Hence, the old man of the group breaks the ice and introduces himself to the party. Not to spoil anything, but the dude's name is irrelevant, so I didn't memorize it. He can change stuff into rope, so we will be calling him Rope Seller. Yuri and Kurosaki introduce themselves and what they can do, i.e. the ability to quadruple her power and the ability to turn sticks into blades. After that, the new big guy gives his name Shin. He can become invincible for 2 seconds, but he refuses to use the given ability since it goes against his code as a pro wrestler. Finally, our boy introduces himself to the group and decides to keep his actual power a secret, disguising his abilities as the ability to make a hand cannon. When the rope man asks for others to show their powers, Akira deflects the question immediately by asking Kurosaki how his injuries feel, which certifies his position. Besides, Akira is not sure if he can activate the cannon if he wants to or not, as the description of his power specifically says he must be engaged with someone else and these people don't see him as a threat. Soon after the team planning phase ends, Mion calls the home team to head for their next battle, which is a team match in the form of 1 versus 1. Whoever wins 3 matches wins the prize and the losing team will be punished. Akira concludes that this whole team thing wasn't necessary. The cat girl just wanted the players to out their abilities to each other and raise the difficulty of the upcoming rounds. The first match with the opposing team was Rope Man against the bewitching Rin. She asked the salesman to withdraw. Rin didn't want to kill him or lose since no one knew what the punishment was for losing. Rope Man tried to weasel his way out by talking a big game and throwing it all to Lady Luck. But Rin wasn't having any of his games and killed him on the spot, much to everyone's shock, as it happened so fast they didn't see or move an inch. The loss of the match and their comrade's life made the home team argue between themselves and almost fight each other. But Akira comes between the boys to solve the issue so they don't look divided in front of the opposition, who are eyeing the team. Shin's turn is up. He was against a high school girl, Ringo Tatara. Although she looked calm, cool, and collected, Ringo forfeited the match as soon as it started, surprising everybody. Turns out her power can copy other people's power for 1/10 of their value, and since the big guy is only able to be invincible for a couple of seconds, she was fighting a losing battle either way. The third match was between Kurosaki and another girl who can turn little pebbles into huge boulders. Still, thanks to Kiri's fast reflexes and good hand-eye coordination, he deflected the first one and cut through the last, leaving the girl's back against the wall. Since everything she threw at him, Kiri Boy can cut with his empowered swords. To put it short, Kurosaki appeared unbeatable. Everything the girl threw at him, he cut through. It was like a monkey throwing shit at a lion, praying something sticks and it drops dead. That said, as soon as the neurons in the girl's brain activated, she did the next best thing. Instead of putting this wild boy down with one hit, she first must corner him in a field of boulders to cut his escape route, and then hit him on with more rocks, which in turn was nothing but a distraction to jump with her slingshot in hand and deliver a swift blow. Kurosaki, however, saw through her plan and acted accordingly. When he was out of vision, the young cub broke his stick in half and made another sword to ruin her slingshot and send her back to the ground defeated. Yet after all is said and done, the one who had the last laugh was the little girl. You see, if there's anything that good old Lady Karma hates, then it's arrogance and carelessness, which Kurosaki certainly doesn't lack, hence why his man Jules weren't so lucky. With the home team down 2-1, Akira is the next contestant. After talking some smack to his boy for putting him in an unfavorable position, Akira promises he will try his best, but in reality he doesn't care about winning since he already deduced that losing this 5v5 won't result in the group's death. Hence, Akira's priority is to learn the limit of his power, how it activates, what activates it, and the extreme conditions that must be met to activate it. Such thoughts fill Akira's mind with thrill. He first focuses his attention on both teammates and enemy. When nothing happens, Akira moves to the second phase, i.e. scare the crap out of Kurosaki, making the latter manifest the hand cannon from his belief. Simultaneously, it scares the shit out of the guy he is facing. We also not gonna bother recalling his name since he's a background character. The lad even acknowledges it himself, as we can see how he always wished to be MC of his own story but never was. Back to the actual main character, from one last test, Akira realizes that people on the enemy sidelines won't activate his ability if he focuses on them. With the testing phase finished, Akira shot the guy to end the match, but he was surprised his shots were not doing damage. Thus, using his brain, the main man throws a shoe at the bystander to make him raise his hand off the ground, since the guy can nullify other abilities using his own, which is activated by touching the ground. As Akira walks away a winner, he summarizes all the stuff he learned in one line: "There must be an acknowledgement of mutual engagement between myself and the target, otherwise it's useless." End quote. Moving to match 5, it's Yuri against her stalker. Surprise, surprise, win or lose. Yuri was determined to confront her stalker, who pushed her into this hell program. Therefore, with killer instinct clear in her eye and harm in her mind, she quadrupled all her physical stats and ran as fast as she could to punch the creep in the guts, knocking the wind out of him literally and figuratively. Akira notes Yuri's ability might be unstoppable if she manages to fully master it. After the 5v5 match ended and the home team won, Mion appeared from nowhere to hand out the prize as well as punishment. Turns out the grand prize was a fancy meal served by the loser team wearing bunny girl suits, which was a very nice surprise to us. Not gonna lie, seeing the redhead hottie in a bunny suit blessed our eyes. But then Akira cursed them by suggesting Kiriboy join the losers for getting carried. The next day, the fellas say their farewells before splitting to the next stage. Akira works his Ri's magic with Yuri, hoping this interaction will be fruitful for his future plans. The third program has started going inside a dark room. The announcer gives our boy a briefing that he must collect 1,000 to advance, adding that if he knocks out a person, he will earn 10 points, which is nothing, meaning this is going to be an ongoing large quest, and that's about it. While running, Akira thinks over his strategy, but not for long, when a man named Katsuya Saito, who speaks Kansai dialect, saying, "I came to solicit you," appears in front of Akira. Soon after, a familiar face comes running towards Akira at top speed. Yuri was running from a group of losers. How do we know they are losers? Well, just take a look at them. I cease my case. That said, one of the losers was lucky enough to be blessed by the hand cannon ability. Seeing this, Yuri mentions they have the same power as her boy, which allows him to activate the cannon after they believe he has it too. Also, they fulfill the condition of facing him in mutual combat. The group makes a run for it, leaving Team Virgins in the dust, wondering how they will break the news to their boss, who is seen sitting in the dark and being joined by none other than the deadly redhead hottie. The pair thank their new comrades for helping them and trying to stand up for them on the spot without any hesitation. According to Katsuya, there are multiple factions in the third program. The red team is divided by dangerous people, and they belong to the green team. Akira, who seeks a clue to clear the program, visits the position of the green team. The green camp houses kids, old folks, and women. Seeing this, Akira gets even more interested in who the leader is and how he can house such a big number, supply food, comfort, and safety, while they actively recruit new members and fend off other factions. After an awkward yet wholesome interaction with Homegirl, the main man gets to meet the team leader, Yudo Shirasagi. The old man welcomes the pair and invites them to join their ranks, as the faction is lacking members with strong abilities. Akira and Yuri are baffled by the sound of that, since they overestimated the faction's power. Likewise, the Greens are baffled that they found 2 new members with rare powerful abilities like the cannon and the multiplying physical power. The old man proceeds to explain how they run the camp and the nature of this new phase. You should each have an interface, which is where you keep track of the point you need to advance. Points are earned by completing tasks and quests assigned by Mion and her underling. And if you haven't seen it yet, it also functions as a currency that can be used to make purchases from the organization in charge. Purchases such as food, medical supplies, refills of stuff some abilities consume, and occasionally some valuable informant. Hence, the program is shaped to be a big group game, but recently a new faction, Team Red, decided to set root in this phase, and instead of collecting points, they collected members and kidnapped people to make their kingdom in this new place, becoming satisfied enough from advancing to another stage. Finally, there is also a third faction called Team Blue that remains neutral and refuses to align with any of the two. Hearing all this, Yuri decides to join the green ranks without any ifs or buts, opposite to Akira, who doesn't enjoy the idea of being forced to stand behind something. Like the main man he is, the lad would rather make up his own mind, so he decides to go all drama queen and raises his hand, threatening to shoot the old man and make a new path for himself. However, to his shock, the hand cannon doesn't activate. Akira deduces that either Yudo does not believe he has the hand cannon, or the old man has an ability that nullifies someone else. When Yuri asks him to stand down, the cannon appears, yet the old man still looks calm. Yuto challenges Akira to fire, to which the latter complies. After that test of power, the two came to an understanding. Akira will join and Yuto will lead. An old sweet woman enters the room to inform the leader they are running out of housing space with all the new people they're recruiting, so our boy tells them they can put him and Yuri in the same room, much to her surprise. Akira got that dog in him, I tell ya. Now under the same roof, Yuri's mind runs some wild speculations on what might happen. Her heart beats faster when lover boy hands her a letter. Once she reads it, her embarrassment turns into confusion as Akira has written on it that his actual power is telepathy. Not able to believe it since she already saw him in action, Akira begs her to open her mind and try to connect with him through thoughts. Shockingly, the pair can hear each other. After this success, the main man asks her to communicate through telepathy from now on because he suspects people might be watching them to make sure the pair are not a threat. The two then decide to learn more about each other and their goals to make their partnership even more profound. Upon making it official and deciding he can trust Yuri fully, Akira comes clean and tells her telepathy is also not his real power, but the ability to deceive people and make them manifest his power. Soon after, Mion announces a large-scale subjugation quest, Ghouls Hunting. The leaders of the red team, Hajime and Masaya, decided it would be a good time to get rid of the quote-unquote slaves. The next day, Yuto gathers a large amount of his best men and instructs them to split into smaller groups since this quest has lots of points to score, leaving Akira and Yuri to pair up and head alone, being the strongest among the bunch. Later, everyone arrives at the same location, where they will be killing all types of ghouls. The devised team synergies well together, making it easy to slay these ugly bastards. Akira watches closely other leaders in action to sniff out other good abilities he might use. He does another rundown of how his power works, as well as the situation he is placed in with everyone watching him, making switching between canon and telepathy by shifting his focus pretty easy. The Reds team leaders arrive at the scene to watch the Greens fight and study their power. The old man notices this and commands his men to fall back as he is careful not to put all their cards on the table. However, Masaya takes cruel measures against Yudo Shirasagi's tactics, i.e., he orders his slaves to charge to their deaths so they don't run away and are forced to stay and help. Havoc continues to run rampant when Mion raises the difficulty by summoning a big cat ghoul. Yudo steps in last second before Akira gets turned into a smashed potato. Using his ability, Peaceful Negotiation, old man Yudo tanks all the buff cat attacks before transforming all the damage back to it, leveling the cat ghoul and injuring his hand in the process. Sadly, Mion's kitty is a tough cookie to cark. The team leader asks everyone to escape while he holds him back with his remaining strength, but Yuri refuses to leave him and rushes in for help. In turn, Akira decides to stick behind to support his girl, which makes her as well as Mion glad since Shodi likes watching fiestas unfold. The pair put on a plan to try the new teleport ability they saw a commander use, but far from the eyes of everyone, so as soon as Akira led the cat bastard to a spot away from everyone, Yuri switched her mental focus on the power, allowing him to teleport last second and appear from behind the monster and blast its head off. Yet it wasn't enough and the cat fella stood back up for another round. Hajime, the red team leader, descended to finish off the cat boss. But don't get it twisted, he didn't do it out of his good heart, the big lug did it because he got bored and wanted to join in the fun. However, Mion stops him also not out of goodness of heart, but out of love for chaos. A large-scale quest, Hunt the King, is announced. As the name suggests, both teams will assign a king of their own, and the other team will have to track them down and get their interface with any means necessary. And if a team beats enough members of the other team, they can get points to force activate another opposing member handcuffs, rendering them powerless. The second in command of Team Red, Masaya, comes up with the condition that everyone on the losing must die. Mion, who grew bored of the faction's long-lasting stalemate, accepts, much to old man Yudo's dismay. Thus, a momentary peace reigns until the next quest unfolds over the upcoming 7 days. Upon getting back to their camp, Yuri goes to take a shower while Akira gets questioned by Yuto about the nature of his true power. You see, during a boss fight, the sharp leader noticed it'd be impossible to dodge the cat hit out of normal reflexes. With no way out of this situation, Akira doesn't deny his claims but also doesn't tell him his actual power. The MC just confirms his suspicions and asks the leader to put his full trust in him as he will do his best to beat the Reds. Elsewhere, as a teen girl from the Greens is collecting wood, she gets jumped by a red creep. Luckily, the macho wrestler Shin was nearby to save the day. The trio reunites at the camp and Shin joins the Greens, a good addition to the team as they are now heavily lacking in offensive stats with some members injured. Akira mulls over what he can in the short period he has and the amount of men on their side. At that moment, the shorty from Phase 2, Ringo, thanks the main man for saving her from the red. The girl then refers to his real ability, which clearly distress him. Yuri, walking by, sees the two talking and gets confused when Lover Boy shoves the girl to their room. Inside, Ringo explains her ability allows her to learn about others' abilities and copy them at 1/10 of their power, which she considers useless, hence why she tells him all she knows so that he partners up with her to make the most out of their powers. However, from the looks of it, Akira declines and Ringo leaves while eyeing the blondie. Later, Akira asks Yuri to accompany him over to the Blues' territory. Elsewhere, the guy who got his ass handed to him by Shin flees back to the Reds' territory, where all the leaders of the faction gather together once again for the Hunger Games. One chick makes it clear she doesn't like our girl Rin, but Messiah calms her down. Remember this scene, boys, it will come in handy later on. Anyways, the guy who escaped makes his way to the leader's room to tell Messiah, "The spy you have stationed on the inside helped me escape," with a message. You might have not been able to see it, but when the ghoul attacked the kid, he should have died. It was a direct hit. However, he was fine and fired his cannon like nothing happened. Hearing this, number 2 heads to talk with number 1 to inform him they must pay more attention to the new kid, realizing he has multiple abilities. Speaking about the devil, on his way to see Team Blue, Akira asks Yuri to show him how her power works, so he can try it. Sadly, his body is not built for such a stressful ability. Unlike Yuri, who can use it out of pure instinct, it will take Akira some training to handle it. Deducing they must know which abilities they can use in the meantime, Akira asks Yuri to imagine that he can shapeshift to a specific person in her mind, so Girly thinks hard and imagines Ringo from all the people that come to mind. Seeing this, Akira addresses the situation, realizing Yuri saw them together yesterday. Lover Boy tells her Ringo came with an offer to partner up and told him everything she knows. She also asked him to inform Yuri about what they discussed as insurance, so if he kills her, Yuri would stop trusting him. The pair then continue on their march to contact the leader of the blue team, Omoto, and ask for cooperation. Although the third faction pushes back at the idea of joining in on the game alongside the Greens, Akira tries to win them over by offering points that would take a person 6 quests to collect. However, Yuri, the leader, is still not convinced to join as the points are not guaranteed unless they win. And that's a big if looking at the green firepower. That said, he offers to recruit his faction if Akira gives Yuri to the Blues. Akira declines, saying Yuri is too valuable and has a rare ability. Yet the main man is down to make the trade if Omoto joins the battle himself, since believe it or not, that lazy creep is a beast. Impressed by Akira's negotiating skills, Omoto agrees to pass the message to his people and let anyone interested join the games. The pair then catch up a bit with your boy Kurosaki, who still be catching disses from Akira as if he were a mumble rapper. Later, the two get back to the camp, where the team leader tells them some members decided to join in the games and support them from the sidelines, including this sweet-looking elderly lady. The next day, a referee gathers the Greens to show the playground they will be competing on. Mion then explains some rules of the game. There will be towers around the forest, and if a team catches the tower, they will get special points that give them access to special perks like learning the location of a person, reviving a dead interface, sealing someone ability, or even learning the measurements of the hostess with the mostas. With the rules clear, both teams register their king and decide to capture the towers first thing. While Old Man Yudo hangs back in a camp as his people capture tower after tower, Hajime, the leader of Team Red, unexpectedly appears on the front line and dominates the battlefield with overwhelming violence. But one must admit the chick facing him put on a good fight. Meanwhile, every other team gets hit with a red leader. Despite the numbers advantage the Greens have, they are no match to the powerful abilities of their experienced enemies. Talking about experienced characters, Rin is seen making a deal with the main man himself. She even tries to seduce our boy. But Akira is no simp. He's a gamer, and hating women is in his DNA. After the lad leaves, Rin makes a call to inform someone about his whereabouts. Back with Big Shin, he confronts a slinky fella that has killed his new comrades, and soon Shin might join them due to the guy shrinking the cuffs around his hand and then cutting it with a string. The Reds plan to divide and conquer. Yuri arrives at the scene with a flying kick and engages with Hajime to save Asuka. Having foreseen the big man's power, Akira instructed Yuri to use her speed and agility to weaken him and then counter with a big knee when he tried to close the distance. Meanwhile, at the camp, the Greens have caught the spy within their ranks. Ringo tries to convince him to talk and she succeeds. Sadly, when she goes to get him a glass of water, Ringo finds the lad dead. Another spy has infiltrated the camp. You wouldn't guess who. Yup, turns out the sweet old lady was a heatless killer all along, working undercover for the Red's leaders. That aside, watching Yuri argue with Akira before she went to save Asuka made it clear that the home team was not in the best shape right now, and Akira could feel it down to the core. Speaking about the home team, his old buddy Kurosaki decided to make an entrance and settle the score with Akira once and for all. However, it was all part of our boy's grander plan. You see, Rin made the call on Akira's request to make Kurosaki think he is getting an honorable rematch, but in reality, he wanted to use him for the boss battle. And here, we are with the boys confronting Ryuji, an executive of the Red team. Seeing how powerful their opponent is, the boys go into retreat and make a plan, which Kurosaki is confident in. However, when it came to execution, they fumbled the bag as the old man was fast on his feet. Luckily, Akira had a fifth step on his mind. He shot through the tree to make lots of wood splinters, ammo for his buddy to use from above, and put down the bald samurai. Elsewhere, Queen B1 gets her neck snapped by a dying nun, but then stands up like nothing happened at all, just like a demon. As she is about to stab the fallen nun, the demon lady stops upon sensing the presence of the lovely Rin. The redhead hottie turns her hand into a blade and proceeds to fight with the chick. Although they both were on the same team, the girls were prepared to get rid of each other during the war and give the credit for the greens. With that being said, after some struggle, Rin uses her blood to put down the toys as well as turn the crazy chick into a shish kebab. Before restraining her with questionable handcuffs, she manifests from her power. Rin then makes a run for it toward a girl and stabs the cart she had, resulting in Demon Lady losing consciousness. Turns out, Queen Bee was a doll all along being controlled by a guy in the box, making this scene from earlier hella saws. The girl stuck with the box man, she can turn toys into the real thing, so they forced her to team up with the creep controlling the dolls. Rin explains she worked as a double agent to ensure her survival. If she kills a red general, the Greens will say she was with them, and if the Greens lose, she would kill the doll man since it was obvious he was going for her life. It's a win-win situation for her. Rin doesn't want any loose ends. Can we get an F in the comments for that unfortunate fictional soul? Back with Shin and the shrinking man, we see our big friend getting cut down piece by piece. The girl he helped early in this phase swooped in to save him, so naturally the piece of shit didn't like it and attacked her with a knife. But Shin tanked it instead. Through a flashback, we learn that Shin had an older brother who was a pro wrestler. Sadly, Shin's brother passed away due to a car accident, but a piece of him remains within Sweet Shin. Big Bro appeared in front of our guy and assured him there is no shame in using abilities, and that he will forever be proud of him. At that moment, Shin activates his invincible ability and gets clothed in an epic Dark Soul type of armor, which he uses to charge ahead and defeat the douche. On the other end, Katsuya is having his own flashback, recalling a life of crime and meaningless. He yearned for a family and someone to care about him, which he found in this program. Akira arrives last second to save him so he in turn can go and save the one he cares for. After some forth and back about their abilities, the old hip man tried to run down our boy, but it was ready for him and pulled the red samurai sword, making the former think of his comrade's ability, the only ability that can defeat him, resulting in his demise. Turns out, Akira made his bros and foes think he had the cannon ability at the start, but then he let a hint of truth slip so he could be more flexible moving on with his plans. At the camp, a sweet yet not so sweet old lady made her move against Yuto, but the old man was ready for her, as he always had his suspicions. With everything on the table, the old lady explains that she was on the green side till she learned her boys, the Red's leaders, are the enemies. With this turn of events, the old hag decides to take Asuka's baby hostage, threatening to shoot him if Yuto doesn't give up his interface, which he hands. However, the game is not finished yet. Yup, the Green's king wasn't the old man, but the main man himself. The old lady demands to know who is the real king. After recalling her king's words, Ringo gathers her strength and puts faith in her ability. She copies the cannon, albeit a bit weaker, it shoots way faster, putting both ladies on an equal footing. Ringo then asks the old lady to place the baby somewhere safe since both of them don't want to harm him while fighting. With both being evenly matched head-to-head, the old hag decides to pull some nasty tricks and go all close and personal. Unable to shoot, Ringo gets beaten to a pulp. After the evil nanny goes over her sad past story, Ringo was like, fuck this shit. She shot at a nearby cliff, supposedly killing the baby, making the elderly lady freak out. Her new baby is gone, or so she thought. Ringo shot a similar-looking area to make her confused. It was Shodi's real plan from the start. With no baby in hand and answers acquired, the C-word gives up her interface but not her scummy tactics. As she is about to reenact the biblical tale of Cain and Abel, Ringo spots the witch with her smartphone and buries her under the rubble. Back with number 2 and Akira, Akira informs his opponent he has him where he wants, but Messiah pulls an Uno reverse card and says, "No fool, I'm in control." The guy showcases his superiority using his ability to control other players. In other words, Akira is facing a better version of his ability. Using the Slingshot Girl ability and other random guys, he makes new combos to fight with. Previously, Ringo explained that when the Reds capture new people, Hajime treats them harshly, then Messiah swoops in with a little hint of kindness, and as soon as the person feels safe thanks to Red number 2, his ability activities locking them in a debt situation where they become his slaves. Back to the present time, as Messiah is about to order the last attack, Akira stops him by calling out the former dreams and goals of creating a kingdom. The main man continues to run his mouth buying a bit of time, but Messiah was also buying time waiting till Akira felt he was saved to lock in with his debt ability. That said, the debt is considered minor, so what he can do is only give a small order, which he does, preventing the Drip King from moving. Thanks to the spy from before, Messiah already knew Akira could use multiple powers, so when our boys teleported behind him, Messiah's slaves were waiting in the shadows to immediately restrain him. It all went according to the Four Eyes plan, just to force him to a position where he could shank him personally. But then Akira pulls another reverse Uno card out of his ass. You see, Akira made him think he had the power, which made Akira think everything was going to plan, which made the other guy think it was according to his plan, but in reality it was for Akira to activate his power. Makes sense? Well, don't bother over it. What's important is that Akira made sure to defeat Messiah with Yudo's ability, a form of revenge for his fallen friend. In the end, the slaves were freed and Messiah was defeated while Akira stood tall with only his arm damaged, recoil from the negotiating ability. His stomach was okay, thanks to a couple of stakes he hid under his shirt. Akira explains that during the 7-day truce, he was getting prepared for this war. First, he shapeshifted into a red member and infiltrated into their ranks. Akira then put clues he wanted them to find and study the Red's abilities, as well as learned which slaves he might use against him and prepared his countermeasures accordingly. With number 2 conceding, this leaves number 1, and oh boy, that's one tough cookie to crack. Poor Kurosaki got his arm broken like a twig and then yeeted away. The man just can't catch a break. You know it's gonna be one hell of a boss fight when the big bad starts crying. We even got a flashback for his story and his defeated friend back when they were raised in the orphanage the old lady used to work in. Those painful memories fueled him to shatter Yuri's arm with a kick and stop the 10-second invincible Shin in his tracks. Oh, also during the flashbacks, we learned the boys wanted to make a kingdom after a fairy tale in a book, and when the caretaker stepped on that book and beat the living hell out of them, Hajime snapped and took his life, and ever since the big lug can't control his actions. Whenever he feels slightly angry or inconvenient, he becomes numb and enters this berserk mode. However, Yuri doesn't believe he's a monster as she sees her little girlfriend and herself in him. Hence, Yuri decides to knock some sense into him. Girly first matches the big man's punch with her broken arm. She sacrifices it to shatter his. The next move was to defend his barrage of punches, which she did like a champ, making the big guy wonder how much is left in her, as well as how much fuel him is left. As Yuri was about to deliver the final blow, her cuff activities and her power were down. Turns out Messiah had one last trick up his sleeve. He used another player interface to make it look like he was out of the game and then used all his points to lock Yuri's ability before kicking the bucket. Upon hearing Mion's notification of what happened, Akira uses some of his points to broadcast a message asking Hajime to stop. In return, he will face him man-to-man, king to king. Realizing Messiah already died once the girl's ability was sealed, Hajime decided to face Akira and take revenge even though his friend would rather him win the game and build the kingdom they desired. Thus, here we are at the main event watching how this war game has shaped up. Once the battle counter hits 0, Hajime rushes head-on recalling his bro's words about Akira's power. At that moment, the lad calls for Yuri to think of the new ability they came up with, a solid heavy one punch, strong enough to finish Hajime, who starts contemplating about his life, before realizing it wasn't about where they are at in their lives, but about the friend they made along the way. For real, those were his last words. After winning, Mion appears to give Akira one last task before giving him his prize and taking the injured to get some treatment. While washing by the river, Team Blue's leader congratulates Akira and tells him he has seen everything. Naturally, our boy starts calculating his answers and ways to get as much info as he can, but the blue lad shuts him down and raises his hand, telling him he has already seen this ability before. As soon as our boy thinks of the cannon, the lad shoots, injuring Akira, but not killing him. Omoto tells his new foe to pass a message to the cat girl and tell her he's going active again and that he's coming to kill her, adding he will need his help to do so, before bidding him farewell till they meet in the 4th phase. Soon after the main man goes unconscious, Akira wakes up back in his room as if nothing happened. The lad goes with his day normally, but then he meets with the best girl, confirming it wasn't a dream at all.